Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. We have another very special guest. Before we introduce our guest, we do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's given hundreds of millions of dollars away to public education around the U.S. So if your district needs unrestricted funds, reach out to Ideal Impact. Okay, we have our guest today from Guthrie Public Schools. We have Dr. Simpson, Dr. Mike Simpson, a superintendent of Guthrie Public Schools. Dr. Simpson, how you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me, Gary.
Yeah, very excited for today's interview. Everybody we interview has a unique perspective, unique background, and we're just spreading the good word about public education because there's a lot of really good things going on out there. And Dr. Simpson, just so the listeners get to know you a little bit, can you share a little bit about your background?
Sure. I grew up in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and then ended up in kind of on the athletic side of things, and found my way down to Southeast Texas at Sam Houston State. I was an assistant basketball coach down there. Came back to Oklahoma, coached and taught at the high school level for a number of years. Then became an athletic director and assistant superintendent at larger districts, and then the last 12 years, I've been assistant superintendent. Superintendent in Guthrie. Guthrie is just, it's about 20 minutes north of Oklahoma City. We're still rural, but we are starting to see a tremendous growth potential from suburbia. And so we're trying to position ourselves for that growth that's inevitable. And lots of things that we have going on that are trying to be prepared to address that growth and to serve our students.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's interesting. And it seems like there's certain areas that are growing more than others. Just curious, as far as getting prepared, what are some of the things a district may do to get in place for for that additional growth in an area?
Well, obviously, with us, we're right on Interstate 35, and so you've got to have transportation before the growth can happen, and we've got that. We're looking at we have an elementary school that's under construction. We've built a brand new elementary school. This district went really for a long time, about almost 30 years, without building a new school, and there really wasn't growth or anything calling for it. Well, we've tried to be proactive and address that growth with our facilities and our physical plant, and also the things that we're offering our students, and knowing that the students that we will probably gain will in all likelihood require a more diverse education than maybe what we offer today.
Very nice, very nice. Well, tell us, what are you passionate about in public ed these days? What's I don't know if keeping you up at night's the right word, but what are you excited about?
Well, obviously, being able to provide the best educational opportunity for our students. I'm a parent in this district as well. My wife and I started our family a little bit late, and I've got an eighth grader and a fourth grader in our school as well. And so I hear, and my wife is also an elementary counselor in the district, so I hear lots of perspectives about what it's like to be a student or another staff member in our district, and trying to provide for the best opportunity for our students to be successful. One of those things is provide quality facilities. And then the other thing is offering things that we feel like will prepare our students for life. One of the things, Gary, you mentioned passion. I having an athletic background, I have a passion for extracurricular activities. I think the number one way to provide an opportunity for at-risk students is to extend the school day. And you do that largely through your extracurricular activities. And so, and that's not just athletics. We have a tremendous ag program that's traditionally one of the most successful in the state. We've got a great band program and a great choir program, lots of other opportunities for our students, in addition to a historically incredibly successful athletic program. And so extending that school day for those kids puts them in a structured position to work with others. And I tell our staff all the time that we are likely, for the 6 to 8 hours a day that we have these students for 2/3 of the school year, we are likely the most structure that is in their lives. And by providing those opportunities and lengthening that school day, it gives those students a chance for success when, in many times, they go home. In our district right now, we're at about 65% free and reduced lunch. So they go home to poverty. And so we're providing those opportunities for success and also for structure.
That is so interesting that you framed it that way, and I couldn't agree more. I know, well, I mean, speaking from experience, not to go into a lot of details, but my sister and I, we were on, reduced lunch and that sort of thing, and we talked about that recently, just how much of an impact the public education system had on us, just having that structure in our life, during that certain time period. Um, so tell us a little bit more about that. So you have, um, you're growing right now. You have some nice things in place. You're looking. Are y'all actually expanding the school day, or is that just kind of a thought at this point?
Well, when you say expanding the school day, we are expanding the school day in the sense that we are expanding our offerings for extracurricular activities. Traditionally, you're in Texas. Volleyball is huge in Texas. And the time I spent at Sam Houston State, I got to figure that one out myself. But it's not been as big a thing in Oklahoma. Softball has been the real thing in Oklahoma, and softball in Oklahoma we play in the fall, so it's right up against volleyball. For the first time ever, we 2 years ago started a volleyball program, and we have started it at the junior high level, and it moved up to the ninth grade level this year. Next year, we will field a varsity team. That has not been something, because of the size of the district and things, interest. It's not something we've offered, but we have offered that in addition to, and Gary, I didn't mention, but I'm 10 years into my term as a member of the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Activities Association Board of Directors. We govern and regulate high school activities in Oklahoma. And a few years back, we added as an official sport esports. And I had to educate myself on a lot of this. And I kind of geek out on flight sims and stuff like that at home, but I don't play these other games. And so now my son's getting the age that he does, but I had to kind of educate myself to this. But I also know that what we are doing by offering esports, and we started that at Guthrie 2, 3 years ago, somewhere around there. We are extending the school day for a segment of students that would not have otherwise been involved in school activities. And I can tell you, by looking, by checking in on that group, they weren't in athletics. They weren't in ag. Some of them were in band, and that's before school. So we've now added time to them before school and after school for practices and teamwork and camaraderie and supervision by one of our staff members.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned esports, because I know the gaming industry in general is growing. So there's probably going to be a lot of jobs in that sector. And there already is, but that'll be expanding in the future as well. Curious. So there's some programs in place for, for poverty situations, for other situations where there might not be available resources in other areas and that sort of thing. How does your district, and this, I guess this could cover like just school districts in general. Um, some students are going to perform better than other students, right? There's just certain gifted students out there that are, if you look at standardized tests or whatever, however you measure it. How does your district handle those students where you can take them from good to great to, just, I mean, what does that look like, right? So it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I view any public educator, one of our chief functions is to try and break the cycle of poverty.
Mhm.
And when you look at and in Guthrie, we have some generational poverty, and then doing what we can to break that. For starters, we try to provide support for those families that need it. We have, with COVID money, we've employed three they're called DHS. I can't remember the official term, but they're almost like a social worker. that we pay half their salary, and we've done that with COVID money, and then DHS pays half of their salary. And they're tasked with finding resources to help these families, not taking kids out of the home or anything like that, but giving them resources and giving them knowledge of how to better navigate the system. The other thing that we do, we have a very generous community. Um, I just am always amazed at how quick they come through for us. But one of my most difficult decisions as superintendent, if you live in Texas, you don't see this as much as we do in Oklahoma, but having those bad weather days. And this is something that I share with our community often because thanks to social media, I can hear everyone's opinion about when we have a snow day or we have a virtual learning day because of the roads. They're very candid with their opinions. And the hardest thing, the hardest decision I have to make is if we shut down in-person instruction on a Friday. And the question is, why Friday? Well, on a Friday, our counselors have determined students that need food to take home over the weekend, people that live in food insecurity. And if we shut down on Friday, and sometimes we've had to shut down on Friday and Monday, those students are then in a position where their food insecurity is doubled from Saturday and Sunday to also Friday and Monday, and they don't have the resources that we were able to provide. And so those are the kinds of things that are challenging decisions. And then when you look at, take for example, through COVID, we were 5 days a week in-person instruction. Many of the districts, in fact, we were the only one, I believe, in the Oklahoma City metro area that maintained that. And that was from the year after the spring break that went on forever, that after we shut down. And then when coming back from 2020 to 2021, that school year, we were 5 days a week in-person instruction. We made the decision to do that because of the structure that our kids needed and of the support that we could provide. And I can tell you that it was harder to be, in-person instruction 5 days a week than it would have been to have an A/B schedule or something like that. Our staff worked harder to maintain that, provide those services for our kids.
Got it. Got it. And curious, and I know you attend different conferences, right? Related to public education. So, and I know there's a focus, and I know there's a need for, I mean, there's just some really dire situations out there with students to kind of, provide the basic necessities, right? For their needs. And then you have these other students where they have everything provided for them, right? They got the food, they have the, parents that are there for them all the time, providing additional support, everything they would need. In those scenarios, how do you get those students to go to the next level, right? Is that a big focus in public ed in general, or?
We went through, Oklahoma's been through some horrendous budget cuts in my career. In 2016, 2017, it was really a horrible time to be a decision maker. I made the conscious decision that regardless of, we were going to try to maintain all programs, and that includes AP programs. We had added a lot of AP offerings for our students since in my time in Guthrie. And even though in many cases the economics of that didn't make sense because of the low number of students that were enrolled in those classes, we maintained those and found a way to make that work because I wanted to make sure that we are also challenging the most gifted students as well. We want all of our kids to succeed and to grow. One of the things I share with our staff all the time is we take them where they are and we grow them. And as far as the state report card and as far as all this other stuff, that is not as important as taking them from where they start and showing growth with them. And we have a fairly decent sized population of special ed students. Well, we feel the same way about them. They are a part of us, and we want to grow them as well. And where they start is a different spot than where an AP kid starts. But growing all of them is what our mission is every day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's such a good point. Just because it kind of helps everyone, and it defeats that argument that hey, public education it doesn't provide enough or whatever, right? See, you hear people, have different negative things to say, but at the end of the day, I mean, you guys are providing education for, wherever they are, in that. So, some districts right now, it's interesting when you talk to different districts. Some are leaning more into technology. Some are leaning away from technology. They're going back to textbooks. Some some are going to 4-day weeks, and some, yeah, it's just a lot of different situations. What would you say is unique to your district right now, as far as kind of y'all's mindset or initiatives that you have to help those students grow even more?
Well, when I mentioned we're growing our students, we're trying to grow our district as well from where we were to where we want to be. And that is a district that involves technology. When when I arrived in 2012, the district had gone for over 10 years without passing a bond issue. They'd had, I believe, 11 failures. And some of that had really crept into how you offer technology for our students. A new computer in Guthrie, Oklahoma was purchased surplus from a neighboring district for $5 a piece when they were done with them. That's how our technology was, and we had desktops only. We are, and if COVID showed us anything, there, and I've said this before, not all of the things that we went through with COVID are bad. It forced our district to really make a push toward one-to-one. I came from and was part of an implementation of a one-to-one program in Ponca City when I was assistant superintendent. And seeing the fact that a student is issued a device and it doesn't matter what socioeconomic background they come from, they get the same device. That is as bar level, as evening the bar as anything I can think of. And then you have to have the professional development and the support for your staff. And I knew that after going through the implementation in Ponca City. We went through a tremendous amount of that in Guthrie, and we're still a work in progress. I want us to be as technologically advanced as we can, knowing full well that the seniors of 2024, the job they will have in 10 years likely does not exist today. And we know that, but if we've given them the tools to be excited about learning new things, then they're not afraid to step out as things evolve. And that and we have to do that, being mindful that in many cases, because of the nature of our school district, a lot of the kids where they live physically, if I send them home with a hotspot, by the time they get to that house, it may be nothing more than a paperweight. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we did to address that, we have Wi-Fi on our buses. It's all content filtered, and we have them on all of our buses. But we also have at all of our school sites, we have Wi-Fi antennas in the parking lots, so that if a student needs to, they can go to the parking lot and they're going to have the district Wi-Fi 24/7.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, technology, there's so much opportunity there, right? And it's great that you guys are expanding that and have that focus, and it's needed, right? So I imagine a lot of the textbooks are online, right? Or
they are, and there's still a part of me that's more old school. I do read things online. I've gotten to the point where I can read the newspaper online now, but I do want to have that option, and that we have a paper textbook. So we have those in every classroom. Then the student can access the online version when they go home with their Chromebook through our apps as well.
That's great. That's great that you'll have it. You'll have both, because I imagine there's a sensory thing associated with it, right? Um, last question. So I know we're running short on time here. So when you're talking about, I know when you're talking about businesses, a lot of times people look at incremental growth, and I imagine in school districts you look at incremental growth as well. Do you see anything in public ed right now that's just transformative that can take somebody from, let's say, a 10 to 20% improvement to a 10x improvement?
I think there are people out there marketing things that claim that.
Yeah.
I've not found I've not found that yet. I think the key element is consistent work on a daily basis. And it's like I told our board when we first got started together on our facilities. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We needed probably $250 million to bring our facilities up to what would be considered acceptable 12 years ago. Um, we're on our way. Same way with achievement with students. I don't know that there's a magic bullet that's out there. Any kind of potion that people claim is going to be going to turn at 50%, I'd be very cautious of. Um, not to say not to say that something doesn't exist, but I've not found it yet. And I've got 34 years into education, I guess, and 12 years as superintendent.
Got it. Yeah, that's just one of those questions, just what's out there, and who knows, maybe artificial intelligence will have a spot somewhere in there down the road. Um, well, Dr. Simpson, I really appreciate you joining on the podcast today, and appreciate you sharing your wisdom and what's happening at your district, and very excited for your district and the growth that you're seeing out there. And any last thoughts before we close out?
Really appreciate you having me, Gary. I got to listen to some of the others too, and they were very entertaining and informative, and appreciate what you're doing for public education.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Dr. Simpson. And before we close out, we do want to give it a shout out to our sponsor one last time, Ideal Impact, giving hundreds of millions of dollars away to public education. If your district needs unrestricted funds, reach out to Ideal Impact. It's zero out of pocket to the district. And for those that have been tuning in, stay tuned for future episodes of the Educational Leadership Podcast.